Get more for your money traveling in the Philippines or anywhere else you're going. This is a John's Retirement Travel Blog production. This video is for someone that might be going to the Philippines for a couple of weeks, a couple of months, or longer, or deciding to stay and buy a place there. This has something for everybody. But before I begin, I just wanted to mention, all these pictures are taken at the Philippines. I could have you watch me talk for a long time. Some people might want that. That will be in my other videos. But this one, I want to just share some of the beautiful places I've been to. I have done all of the above over 10 years. I followed some good advice from others that turned out to not be good advice for me, so I will explain some of those things. For a short trip, bringing cash is a good idea. You can change at money changers. They're usually pretty good. They don't try to rip you off or anything. It's pretty simple. You may want to charge some things on your credit card. You want to be sure that you have credit cards with no foreign transaction fees. You need to work that out before your trip. I have found that the rate they give you when you pay by credit card for things is better than the one they give you when you change money at a money changer. And then if you change to get more cash, you have to go to ATM and pay fees for that. Then if you want to have a card that gives you miles, can be good, or 2% cash back, that's good too. You're doing much better than if you just use cash. If you want to get miles, make sure you use cards like the Chase Sapphire card or the United Plus card. They usually give you 60,000 miles if you spend $3,000 in the first 3 months. If you live in a small town like I do, they charge a lot extra to fly to San Francisco from Humboldt County, then on to Cebu. When you pay by miles, it is the same amount of miles to fly from Humboldt to Cebu as it takes to fly from San Francisco to Cebu. So it actually saves you some money. If you get the best price flights, it is usually around 40,000 miles for a one-way trip to Cebu from Arcata or San Francisco. Unfortunately, I just checked to make a ticket purchase, and they seem like they've devalued the points. Now it takes at least 60,000 points to make that flight, and they want a little more cash for it also. The card I originally used was a business card. I had a small business, so I bought a lot of stuff for the business, and that gave me lots of miles. When I called them and told them I retired, they immediately canceled the card. That surprised me. But they did say I could apply for the personal card and get another 60,000 miles. Capital One has some good cashback cards. Some of the cards will give you things that they call points, though, and they're not really miles. So you can't really use them as miles, but you get cash towards your trips. Like Capital One, you can get often 2% cash back, which is sort of handy, but it's just not going to be miles. And you do want to make sure that your cards do not expire when you are traveling. Also, you can set alerts, which is a really good idea. If I'm at a supermarket or restaurant, I will get an email verifying how much was charged before I leave the building. As soon as they make the charge, the email comes in and you have it and know that it's there. And it's really good if someone gets into your account, which I've never had happen in the Philippines. It is good to know right away and get it taken care of right away instead of a few days later when you're out of money and your card doesn't work. One piece of advice I was given by someone who travels a lot was to not take a card with the bank that I had the most money in it. So in case someone stole my stuff and cards, they would not know where banks I used and they couldn't get a hold of most of the money that I had. It sounds reasonable and everything, but that didn't work out too well for me. When I was getting my emails, I got a bill for a charge from a card I didn't even have with me. It was a U.S. one that had foreign transaction fees, so I never even brought it on the trip. I left it in a safe deposit box, but I got a bill on that card for a charge that I did not make and I did not have with me. And so I was in Palawan, this is 8 years ago, and the internet wasn't so great. And so I tried calling up the bank, Chase, and not having the debit card made it a lot harder to establish that it was really me and to make things right. So by the time I got everything, all the identity and everything they needed to verify it was me, it was sort of a time-consuming method. And then when I finally got there, the internet would go out for a few seconds and I lost all my phone connection. So I had to just start over and keep at it till I finally got through to somebody and got that taken care of. And I did get that taken care of. But it wasn't as easy as it could have been. I used Wi-Fi to connect to Skype to make phone calls. I set up my Skype account in the U.S. So Skype generally thinks I'm in the U.S. So if I make like 1-800 phone calls, there's no charge. The next subject is cell phones. I used to be a loyal Verizon customer for years, and I noticed they didn't really have a lot of advantages for things to do when you're traveling. And so I talked to one of their salespersons and asked how they could help me in my travels. He said he had nothing to offer me. Also, I went to T-Mobile. They paid off the balance that I owed on my phone. There I got unlimited text messages from anywhere, other in the world, I guess. I also got unlimited roaming data anywhere, which is really nice, traveling around in the Philippines. Especially around IT Park, I can get 5G. In Malabo, it's going to be a bit slower, but I can get enough data to keep up with my emails and get Instagram with a few pauses and things, and send some photos. After I left Verizon, they started offering me specials so I would come back, something they never did before I left them. So if you make calls to the U.S., it is 25 cents a minute, which is hard to beat at all through T-Mobile. With my newest plan with T-Mobile, which costs a little more than my first plan, they include and pay for Netflix, which I sort of appreciate. I didn't mind paying for it before. And it's nice, it works fine. They handle all the billing and stuff. But then about a week or so ago, I got an email saying, we changed your plan a little bit, and you don't have the ad-free, you have some ads with your Netflix. So I thought, oh well, I guess that's what I have. Until a couple of nights ago when I came back to town and turned it on, because often I'm out of town. I'm in Malabo where I don't have Wi-Fi. Anyway, I turned it on and I got a message saying, ad-free is not available in your area. So that looked like I couldn't really get Netflix. So I called them up. My wife found a phone number to talk to them, T-Mobile that is. And T-Mobile said, well, and I spent near an hour on the phone with someone, and they sent an invitation to other stuff. So basically I have Netflix and I don't have to pay extra for the ad-free now. It's just if you get those things, be persistent, they will respond for you. Just don't expect them to happen automatically. To enter a lot of websites now that you use regularly, you have to have a two-factor verification. So they send you a code and you send it back to them, so they know it's really you. So if you, so it's sort of important to bring your home cell phone with you, so you can receive those messages. Otherwise, you may be trying to call them and you never get that message to do that. In fact, we had a thing that was hard. My wife, and the number they had for her cell phone number, it was actually the wrong number, and you couldn't see it when you were doing it. We kept wondering, how come we never get the messages? Well, finally we called them, and they looked at the numbers and showed us what the numbers said, and we got it changed to what they should be, so it works nice and easy now. If you're staying in the Philippines for a while, you may find a local phone handy. When people ask what your phone number is, they usually want the local phone number. They don't want a U.S. phone number. And that helps connecting with people and texting and messages for a whole lot of things. If you have a phone with 2 SIM cards, that should be okay, but you can get an inexpensive local phone at the local malls. And here there's a certain verification before you can get a SIM card, so you need to get that taken care of. It is actually a SIM card registration that certain stores handle. You do not need that for your U.S. phone, though. Wi-Fi is the next subject. I remember 10 years ago, if I wanted to watch like a YouTube video, I'd get a few seconds and a pause, and a few more seconds and a pause, and a few more seconds and a pause. The internet Wi-Fi has come a long way in the Philippines in the last 10 years. We got our own Wi-Fi in our own unit about 5 years ago. We use Globe. At first we had various problems. Then they upgraded our building to optic fiber. That is when our problems finally stopped. Then they gave us a deeply discounted rate to keep us, which lasted for a while, but eventually it did run out. So now to get the Wi-Fi in Cebu City, it's about like $28 US for the speed we get, which is one of the slower ones, but it works fine for Netflix and most things. We did have a problem with paying our bill. Paying locally when you're here is actually quite easy and quite straightforward, and they have things online you can do, or you can go down to the mall and pay that way. But we wanted to come back and have our Wi-Fi on. So if we're gone out of the Philippines for a few months, we needed to pay our bill. I mean, we were able to get a freeze for a little while, but that didn't always work. And so they always gave us this web thing about the website to go and pay. And so we kept trying it, and it just never worked. And we talked to people, and they said, we'd go do this, which we did, and it didn't work. And finally we talked to someone, and they said, well, if you have an international credit card, it will not be accepted if you're not in the Philippines. So we kept trying to do something that didn't work. So we finally dealt with that problem by getting automatic payment. We'll automatically pay every month and take it out on a credit card. So we don't have to deal with that. We do have to pay, of course, but when we show up, we can have our Wi-Fi working, we can watch Netflix, everything's like just ready to go. Another issue is getting money out of ATM machines. And there are some fees involved. If you want to use the local ones, they're going to charge you 250 pesos, about $4.50. And you can get 10,000 pesos out. Now, if you have a bank that charges out a network, you may pay that amount again in your own bank's fees. It all depends. Now, if you have a lot of money or you're traveling there a while, like before I got the Malibu place, I had more money in my account, and something like Chase would just reverse your ATM fees. Whatever the bank charged you, they would credit it back. And so that makes it very handy. And I believe Fidelity does the same thing, only you don't have to have a certain amount of money there. So that makes it easier, and I hear Charles Schwab will reverse your fees also. So you could come prepared for that and not have to spend as much on fees. I mean, there are some Euro ATM, network ATMs, that when I went to use one, it seemed like it had other fees that I had to agree upon, so I sort of decided not to use that again. However, they do have a sign there that if you're in a Bank of the Philippines, you will not have to pay the out-of-bank fees for that. Chase Bank does have a thing, though. If you pay $25 for an account, for a certain type of account, you can have your ATM fees reversed, and you can make unlimited international money wires, or not international money wires. And that can be very handy, especially if you have relatives or you're sending money home and stuff. I've been able to use that. And yeah, I've seen people trying to push crypto, saying, oh, to wire money, you have to go to the bank and do this and that. No, I've never gone to the bank for that. You just get on your laptop and you send the wire, and it's going to be there soon. If it's not a weekend, it's going to take a couple of days if they're closed on the weekend, but usually you can get the money wired within a day, and it's quite simple. Unless they're getting tighter on things now, they want to know why you're getting the money. And if you have a large amount, they want to verify that it's really you and it's really your money and not someone under duress telling you to send money. So it's a little more trouble, but you can do that very quickly and get it taken care of without leaving your residence. While we're on the subject of money wires, some banks, like Bank of the Philippines, and other ones charge you to receive a money wire to your account. That sounds nice and everything, not nice at all, but actually the problem you have is if you're buying something or paying for something that's a certain amount of money and you send that amount of money, you're not going to have what they wanted, the agreement, so you're going to be short. Other banks like Metro Bank does not charge to receive a money wire. You send money wire to the account, it's there, the amount you send is there. That makes life a lot simpler and saves you some frustration. And I have asked ahead of time how much the fees will be so I can factor them in and make it go smoothly. And often I get the response, I don't know. If you just want to transfer some money to the Philippines, using the company Wise, formerly called TransferWise, is a good way to transfer money. Their rates are very low, and things are pretty speedy also. If you want to get a driver's license in the Philippines, they would like you to have a 1-year visa. And the license is good for 10 years. Now, being married to a Filipino, if you arrive in the Philippines together, go to the same window together, you automatically get a 1-year visa stamped. So it's a good time to pursue the driver's license while you still have a year instead of waiting for a while. If you want to open a bank account in the Philippines, they would like you to have an ACR card. You usually get that by entering normally in a short-term visa and then renewing it, and you can apply and get an ACR card. Now, if you're married and go there, well, they don't get the money from you, so they'd rather not give you that one. I have an ACR card. No, I have bank accounts without getting an ACR card. But that's sort of a whole other story. If you want to buy property in the Philippines and are not married to a Filipino, you can buy a condominium. Or you can be married to a Filipino and own land. There's a new way that supposedly just in the last couple of years of people getting land to have a business to hire people. And I guess it's working, but I don't really qualified to speak much about that. Sometimes people will buy the house and rent the land that the house is on. A lot of places here have a deed of sale or a deed of absolute sale. If you have a title, you are the owner. Many pieces of property here do not have a clear title. You have to be very careful of that if you're considering buying something. Sometimes people have a tax receipt showing they've paid taxes on property, but that's not the same as a clear title. You do want a lawyer to get this done here. Like, if you're used to the United States, you might, like a property, put a couple $1,000s down and sign an agreement that the realtor has, and they handle all that, and it goes to an escrow company and a title company that checks all that stuff. Things don't work that way here. You want to do some due diligence for sure, but you also want to have a lawyer that knows what he's doing. Otherwise, and the problem we had is we had a realtor that found the place we liked, and she took us to a lawyer, and he wanted 2% of the entire purchase price plus other fees, and it wasn't just for an agreement to pay someone at a certain time. And I know they do it that way, and I just was not open to that at all. And I knew I would not do it that way, so we left, and we paid him something, and we got what we needed done. But we just have to be firm what you're paying and what you're not paying. Some lawyers charge a lot to do something, and some charge a more reasonable amount. For instance, we first saw someone that wanted, about 5 million pesos to do something. And we talked to someone else that wanted about 1/10 that amount, about 500 pesos to do the same thing. And both knew what they were doing. It's just one's a small town lawyer trying to be honest and helpful. The other, like a lot of lawyers, they see money and they want part of it. And it's not, they do that in the U.S. too. I'm not saying, it's just a Philippines thing, although I was warned by someone we bought property from that the lawyers are going to work me or cheat me in some way, and they never did once we got the right lawyer. We did look at some property about 8 years ago. It seemed like a nice piece of property. The thing is, one, when we said we were interested, the price went up. Two, there were 14 names in the title. One of the people no one has seen in years. So we decided it wasn't really worth pursuing. You do want to be sure that the title you're looking at is authentic. I heard they're not always that way. When I bought the property in Malabo, I used the money wire from the U.S. That way I didn't have to put money in a local bank. And the U.S. wants to know if you're moving money to certain places out of the country, but it doesn't really count if you're buying property. So it just made things a whole lot simpler for me. Yeah, if you're moving more than $10,000, the U.S. government likes to know that, but that's if you put it in a local bank. If you have more than $10,000 in any local account here, you have to report it. But if you just wire it on property, it doesn't really seem to count. But, check it out yourself if you're going to do it. Don't take a stranger's word on the internet for legal advice. The last topic is health insurance, whether you want it or not, and that's variables. If you're just traveling a couple of weeks and you have your own plan at home, fine, don't worry about it. Companies sell short-term plans. If you're like me and you have Medicare in the U.S., it doesn't really cover anything in the Philippines. Your best bet is to get in a plane and go somewhere else. Now, there are plans that people sell. I remember years ago I realized when I was starting out in my work that if I bought an expensive health plan, I'd never have the money to buy a house. But if I bought a house, then later I'd want a health plan to cover me in case I needed it. So you can sort of look at things that way. The difference is, in the U.S., they sort of have to take you in the hospital. Then they worry about payment later. In the Philippines, they don't want you coming in unless you can pay for it. So you should have some money sitting around some way or somehow to cover if you need that. You can buy it, but it's like, if once you get like 75 or so, the premiums seem to go up every year a lot. So you're going to be paying a lot of your money just for a health plan. Having money, and you look at, as you get older, they seem to cover less anyway. But it's an individual decision. I mean, some of the Medicare supplement plans will have a $50,000 lifetime coverage, and it's only good for things in the first couple months of your travels. So it's not like a total coverage, but it is something. These are the main things I have, and a lot of the pictures are to let you know that there's a lot out there, a lot we're seeing in different places. I'd sort of like to go through and narrate everything, but I wanted to focus on this one topic, but it sure brings up a lot of memories, and maybe someday I'll give more detail of these things and some of the stories behind that. But overall, Philippines, to me, it was a great, fun place. As far as saving money, I didn't get into a lot of the details like shopping and all that other, because you'll find you'll probably spend what you want. When you come here, you can be sort of frugal, and then you find things you really enjoy and might pay a little more money for those. And you can find that if you go to the public market, you could find fresh vegetables and a lot of other things at a really good price. We notice that the supermarket and the mall in Malabo, a lot of times you can't even find eggs there. But you go to the public market, you can find all these great vegetables that you're not going to find other places. And you can see mangosteen at a good price. So there are a lot of other bargains. I sort of dealt with the hardcore, some of the logistics. But definitely, and you can decide, like for the lawyer thing, when I said, no, I just realized I'm not going to pay that for that. And you check around, you can get someone that'll do it for a lot less money, who's a lot more honest. So to answer the question, how much does it cost to live in the Philippines? And I'm not really putting an answer there, because that's how much does it cost to live in the U.S. or moving to China, or move in a slum somewhere. You can live for less, but how's the quality of your life? How are you enjoying things? And sometimes if you try to save too much money and stay in the wrong places or the wrong foods, you might get sick and not be very healthy, and that's going to cost you too. So a lot of it is taking care of your own health, eating good food, getting some exercise, enjoying the pleasant people that are here. That's you can't put a price on that, but it certainly makes it a pleasant place to be visiting and living. The other question, is the Philippines a safe place to live? Well, I know the island of Cebu. That's where I've spent most of my time, and I can certainly say yes, it certainly is. I know our neighbor in Malabo lived there 23 years, and they've never had any crime there. I've lived in Hawaii and had things stolen and attempted stolen too. So I've seen the difference, where I'd say it's a lot safer than like somewhere in Hawaii or something like that. And then talked to the mayor in Malabo, and her husband. He said, 15 years, haven't had any crime or stuff. And that's sort of hard to believe when you see what goes on in the U.S. when gangs go in and they rip off stores and steal stuff. Here the malls just feel like a really safe place to be, where you can come and relax and let your guard down. And there are plenty of security guards, at least around IT Park and parts of Cebu, and they're very friendly people to be around. They just want to make sure everything stays safe, nothing gets out of hand, and they seem to do a good job of that. Please hit the subscribe button. Enjoy your trip to the Philippines. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and thank you for watching.